What's going on, guys? Welcome to something a little bit different. This isn't necessarily going to be an unboxing video, but more of just a general overview of the Certain Magical Index, the Old Testament Omnibus Edition. This is basically a collection of all 22 light novels of the first series of a Certain Magical Index, which is considered the Old Testament, and the new series is considered New Testament for those who don't know. Basically, New Testament is like the sequel series, I guess, to Index, while Old Testament is the original series. And yeah, that's this basically what this is all 22 volumes in this gigantic, like, I mean, the video really doesn't do it justice. It's just massive hardcover book. It's more like a tome, if anything. That's a collection of 22 volumes of the Old Testament Index light novels. So, and even apparently it also collects some short stories as well. So it's not even just that. So I mean, this thing is huge. Like I said, the video really will not do it justice. This thing is massive. And I feel like I even kind of underestimated just how big this thing is. But from what I can tell, this is made of some, I guess, cloth material for the front of the book, but I still have it wrapped in the plastic. So let's get this out of the plastic before we really go into it. The exterior appears to be made, or at least feels like it's made out of some kind of cloth material. And you see with these little, these sort of like orb things here, it looks like they're, well, you can't tell from the video, but they're kind of like embossed in a way. But here we have the front, the spine, and the back, which is just like this pentagram. And also we have the clasp that's holding this thing together. And if you look and see these pages, it looks like these pages are almost like gold. Of course, they're not actual gold, but it kind of looks that way, you know, just it has that appearance. So, I mean, I can't imagine just opening this thing up and reading it, like reading it on your lap, because this thing is huge. It seems like that's the only drawback of this, is that it seems like if you were to try to read this, it would be kind of a pain in the ass just because of how huge it is. But I figured that this was the best way for me to get into the light novel series. I've seen the anime, and I really like the first two seasons. Season 3, of course, dropped the ball and really kind of rushed things. And it's really also the first two seasons didn't really properly adapt certain things as well, even though it was a overall fairly decent anime. There was some stuff that, of course, it's going to get lost in translation when you try to adapt the light novel, especially with certain characters. People say Toma's character is kind of a lot better in the light novel as opposed to the anime, his anime counterpart, where, you know, the main complaint with Toma is he seems kind of like a bland character, but apparently he's much better in the light novel. So I kind of look forward to seeing those differences and maybe appreciating the characters more than I would have if I just watched the anime and not read the light novel. So anyways, let's see if we can even get into this. So you can just undo this clasp here and open this up, which, of course, you have the cover page. Of course, we're not going to go through everything here. We're just going to kind of skim through some of it. But we have the cover page, Certain Magical Index. Kazuma Kamachi was the writer, and then the Kiyotake Hamura did the illustrations. So we have another cover page here. And then we also have, you can't really see it on the video, but basically this just says, this has all the volumes listed, like every volume this covers. So it basically says that it covers up to, yeah, volume 22. Yeah, 22 volumes. 22 volumes of light novel in this gigantic thing. I haven't really read a lot of light novels, though, to be honest with you guys. Like, I've really just read ReZero, and that's pretty much it. I've been meaning to get into more, and I mean, Index is a series I just keep hearing people praise, especially like the light novels. Well, just, you know, the light novels, and saying, you know, how they're so great, and how, you know, the anime, I mean, people say the anime is fine, but, you know, of course, like I said, it's kind of a different experience reading the light novels, kind of like visual novels, and how the anime adaptations aren't always that great. But we have a table of contents too, which basically also has all the volumes and the chapters, which is pretty neat, just to have all that. And the paper quality seems really nice too, which is kind of expected. I mean, of course, you have bigger pages with this as opposed to what you would have in the light novel, because a typical light novel volume, it's a little bit taller than a manga, but it's like maybe about like yay high, I guess. So you're getting like way bigger pages. But it's just, like I said, it just seems like for the illustrations, it looks great. But actually reading this as a book, oh, it'd be kind of a pain. Like I said, just because it seems kind of impractical just to read it this way. But I don't know. Like I said, this is like probably the best way to read it if you are dedicated and you like want to read really want to read the series, not just like try it out or anything. But here we have the illustrations, and like the character designs, I feel like I do like them here, but I think this is some, this very early artwork from this illustrator, because I'm not a big fan of them, like just kind of first impressions I've seen them before. And I mean, they look fine. Like the early volumes, I think they got a lot better as the series went on, because the characters started to look, just a lot more. Like here, they just look kind of, I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on it, but they don't look bad, but they don't look great either. Honestly, I would actually say I thought the anime character designs looked a lot better. But I mean, I think it kind of makes sense, because, it's supposed to be sort of I guess you'd say a more refined version of the character designs. Some people would, I'm sure, probably disagree with that, because that's not always true, but at least it kind of feels that way when I'm looking at these illustrations compared to what we saw in the anime for like Toma and Index and all the other characters. I think that's Misaka right there. But again, like just to, these are earlier illustrations, so I mean it kind of makes sense that they're not going to look all that great. I mean, you also have to think about in terms of, like I mentioned, visual novels before. The character designs for the Fate Stay Night, the original Fate Stay Night, and how they look, the original Tsukihime, and it's just the artist was still, he wasn't really, he hadn't fully evolved yet. His art hadn't fully evolved yet in a way. But these look good. I mean, I feel like this looks better, but maybe it's just because it's from a side profile and not just like the characters facing you. So I don't know. I feel like this looks pretty good, actually. I don't really have any complaints about that. But yeah, that looks okay. But I mean, it feels like this very early 2000s kind of art. And I think this went around when this came out too, if I'm remembering correctly. But that's pretty cool how they have this in the beginning. But they do that. They typically do this with light novels, where they'll have like dialogue from the characters, and they'll have like an illustration that is like pulled from a chapter from the light novel volume. They did this with ReZero as well, and I feel like they do this with every light novel probably. But I mean, like I said, this still looks good. I just feel like the anime is a little bit better in terms of just the general character designs. But like I said, I'm pretty sure this does get better as the series goes on. We have like a prologue chapter, and oh my god, that text is tiny. Ooh, okay. That's another, I guess, complaint about this, is the text looks so small. And I mean, imagine reading this on like just this giant volume, this giant tome, this kind of smaller text. But I guess I feel like maybe they had to make the text so small just so they could fit everything in here possibly. But I mean, it looks kind of like the font is pretty small, or however they're doing this, it just looks very small just looking at it. Maybe it takes some getting used to, but that's kind of my only other complaint, is just the text just looks kind of tiny. Like, I mean, you can read it, but it's oh man, it's kind of small just looking at it from, at least from this distance. Maybe it'll be different when you're reading it more close, but yeah, it looks very small. We have some more illustrations too, which is nice. But yeah, we're not going to go through all of this. We're just going to go through a little bit of it. Just kind of showing what you can expect if you read this. This is how you're going to read it, I guess. I mean, again, it's just, I'm sure if you, like I said, I'm sure if you kind of read a little bit of it, you'll get more used to how this looks, but it's very weird, especially if you're more used to reading like a typical light novel volume and then you read this giant thing. I mean, even if you read a regular novel, it's not like this. I mean, it feels like this is kind of more like a display piece, if anything. You know, it's something you want to just kind of have up on your shelf just to show off. Be like, hey, I have the whole series in this one gigantic tome, basically. You know, so I can just pick it up and read it that way. I mean, but at the same time, it's like you know, you saw me going through the pages. It's also like, man, reading it this way also seems like it'd be a bit annoying. But I mean, like I feel like it also just takes some getting used to. So I'm sure it won't be so bad. I'm probably making it out to be like much worse than it probably is. But I feel like, yeah, it works as a pretty good display piece, as something that's sort of a, you know, in any way practical when it comes to, you know, trying to read the series. Maybe not so much. I mean, the bigger illustrations are nice, but it feels like they had to cram, in order to like cram everything in here. Maybe they had to make the text smaller. I could be wrong about that, but it just feels that way. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, and maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it just feels like this is also something that's more something you can just put up and display somewhere. But I don't know. The question, I guess, really is this the best way to read the entirety of at least the Old Testament of Index, or should you just invest in all the light novel volumes? This was, I think, it's priced at $250. I think I paid a little over $200 for it. So it wasn't too bad, especially for everything you're getting here and the quality of it. Like, it does look very, very nice. I can't deny that. But like I said, I just have to wonder if you would be better off buying all the individual volumes and doing it that way, because it would be a lot easier to kind of pick those up and read, as opposed to this, which also has some weight to it as well. So, I mean, it seems like it'd be a bit of a task just to pick this up and read it. So that's the only like thing I can say that I'm not so sure about with this. So I feel like, you know, it's hard to say if I could really recommend this to people. I mean, especially if you're on the fence about the series in the first place, definitely don't invest in this. But if you're like dedicated and you want to read, you know, you really want to get into it, like, I mean, I kind of did. I would probably recommend it, but like I said, you just have to understand it might be a bit of a pain in the ass just to read this because of how it's collecting all 22 volumes in this one book. So I guess really I can't say for certain if you should get it in that case. It's really kind of up to you at that point, but I just decided to bite the bullet and get it because I like the idea of it, and I guess it kind of makes sense just thinking about it. You know, in order to get everything in there, they really had to probably make the text smaller. I mean, it's already just a massive, massive thing in the first place. So yeah, this was just kind of going over this volume or this book, or, you know, this collection, this omnibus for the Old Testament for Certain Magical Index. Let me know what you guys think of this. If you know, are maybe convinced in wanting to pick this up, or if you have picked it up, or if you have read Index, let me know what your thoughts about it are. What do you think about the anime and how it adapted a light novel and anything related to Index, I suppose. But yeah, guys, that all being said, until next time, I will see you all later.